All right, guys. Let's talk about our characters today in fantasy and complex fiction. One of the biggest parts of complex fiction and fantasy is learning alongside the main character. Okay, in complicated stories such as fantasy novels, often the main characters begin with a lot of knowledge, and they have without a lot of knowledge. I'm sorry, and they have a steep learning curve. So, as alert readers, when the main character is told important information or has dramatic new experiences, you can see those moments as opportunities for you to learn hand in hand with the main character. Harry Potter, for example, one of the most interesting choices that J.K. Rowling made in creating Harry Potter was to have him begin as a character who knows little about anything. He has literally been kept in a cupboard under the stairs. Just about everything Harry learns, he learns in front of the reader. So, what does this mean? This means that we as readers can have the opportunity to learn alongside Harry. We learn about Hogwarts, we learn about wizards and witches, and we learn everything as Harry is learning them. So, have you learned alongside of a character before? A lot of historical fiction and fantasy novels are structured like this. Think about it. Have you ever seen The Magic School Bus? I'm sure most of us have. The characters are constantly finding themselves in situations where they are learning something new along with the reader or the viewer. Of course, this only happens if the reader bothers to learn. Let's take a look at a clip from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. In this clip, you're going to see Lucy getting acclimated to Narnia, a place she knows nothing about. All right, guys, let's think about that clip a little bit. We learned alongside with Lucy in that. Some signposts of learning moments for characters. So, what often happens is that the story moves along, and there are a few fast parts and slower parts, and there are parts where it's almost all action, and then there are parts where there's conversation. In the clip that we just watched of Lucy, there was no conversation that we could heard, okay, or that we could hear. So we can't learn a whole lot of information from that clip. We learn what Narnia looks like. We learn that it's a magical place. We learn about her interaction with him, okay? But without conversation, we don't really learn much more than that. So, conversations can teach the reader a lot, especially when it is an overheard conversation or ones with when a direct question is being asked. So, conversations can also happen in the middle of action. But you'll know if you see the main character asking direct questions and answers, listening or telling explanations or stories. Whoops, sorry guys. Or having a new, unfamiliar experience. Let's practice, okay? So I'm going to read this passage on the right-hand side, and I want you to read along with me. While we're reading, I want you to think, what are some things that you learn along with Harry after reading this passage? Okay? What types of conversations do you notice in this passage that help Harry learn? So think about those two questions as we read. At that moment, a group of people passed just behind him, and he caught a few words of what they were saying. Packed with muggles, of course. Harry swung around. The speaker was a plump woman who was talking to four boys, all with flaming red hair. Each of them was pushing a trunk like Harry's in front of him, and they had an owl. Heart hammering, Harry pushed the cart after them. They stopped, and so did he, just near enough to hear what they were saying. "Now, what's the platform number?" said the boy's mother. 9 3/4, piped a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding her hand. "Mom, can't I go?" "You're not old enough, Ginny. Now be quiet." "All right, Percy, you go first." What looked like the oldest boy marched toward the platforms 9 and 10. Harry watched, careful not to blink in case he missed it. But just as the boy reached the dividing barrier between the two platforms, a large crowd of tourists came swarming in front of him, and by the time the last backpack had cleared, the boy had vanished. "Fred, you next," the plump woman said. "I'm not Fred, I'm George," said the boy. "Honestly, woman, you call yourselves our mother. Can't you tell I'm George?" "Sorry, George, dear." "Only joking. I am Fred," said the boy, and off he went. His twin called after him to hurry up, and he must have done so, because a second later he was gone. But how had he done it? Now the third brother was walking briskly toward the barrier. He was almost there, and then, quite suddenly, he wasn't anywhere. There was nothing else for it. "Excuse me," Harry said to the plump woman. "Hello, dear," she said. "First time at Hogwarts?" Ron's new, too. She pointed at the last and youngest of her sons. He was tall, thin, and gangling, with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. "Yes," said Harry. The thing is, I don't know how to get onto the platform," she said kindly, and Harry nodded. "Not to worry," she said. "All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop, and don't be scared you'll crash into it. That's very important. Best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Go on before Ron." Okay," said Harry. All right, guys, I want you to pause this video and think, what are some things that you learn along with Harry after reading this passage? And what types of conversations did you notice in this passage that help Harry learn? I'm going to go back to the last slide and we're going to talk about this. So, conversations teach the reader a lot. Okay, we heard asking direct questions and answers. Eventually, Harry was brave enough to go up and ask Ron's mom how to get onto the platform. We hear listening or telling of explanations. We overheard him listening in on the family conversation. He heard the word muggles, and that sparked his interest, because he knew that was a word from the wizarding world. He knew instantly that that was a conversation he wanted to hear. He followed along, he listened, he heard 9 3/4. Overheard conversations are very important. Now, we also saw him having a new, unfamiliar experience. He had never been on that platform before. All of this that happened just in this short page right here taught us things about Hogwarts. It taught us that there is no 9 3/4 platform for others to see. You have to have those magical powers. You have to be going to Hogwarts for you to know how to get on. It also taught us about the Weasley family, okay? We know that there are 3 brothers that already went to Hogwarts. 2 of them are twins with a good sense of humor, and then Ron is new to Hogwarts. We also learned that they have a younger sister, but that she's too young to go. The last thing we kind of learned from here is that, what was I going to say? We learned that Harry is trying to figure out his way, and that he is brave enough. He's brave enough to ask others for help, and that he was smart enough to listen in on those conversations. All right, guys. Good luck with the class cake today. Let me know if you need any help.